Okay, Boker Tov. Thank you very much, everybody. Yasher Koach, Chazak ve'amatz. We are studying today Chassidic Heritage Series. We're learning the Rebbe Rashab, the fifth Chabad Rebbe, to know God, Veyodayta Hayom, and we are plowing forward. Remember, the first half of the discourse is academic, but once we get through the academia, the practical is absolutely stunning, but the didactic is in the first half. That's why we're taking it in small pieces. We're up to lesson 11 in the series right now. And where we're holding is like this. We're going to go straight into where we're holding right now, where we're trying to, the Rebbe Rashab is trying to explain to us why the, let me just catch up over here. We finished the analogy of the Sanhedrin, right? There's a second and final analogy here today, which tries to bring out the following point. The point we're making, good morning, Elaine, is that there is a profound energy difference between the lights and the vessels, orot and kelim. Just in case you're looking for the place, Marty, where we're holding today is on page 7. The paragraph starts with similarly to refer to the analog. That's where it starts. Similarly to refer to the analog. Okay? Hopefully you can find that paragraph. It's about 10 paragraphs in. Okay. So the lights and the vessels. The light is the energy, and the vessels are the packaging. Everything in this world has a body and a soul, an inside and an outside, a software and a hardware, right? I think software and hardware is probably a very, very good example to illustrate body and soul, lights and vessels, right? And what we're trying to explain is that, without getting into it again right now, the lights represent Havaya, and the vessels represent Elohim. Havaya is God's revealed hand. The lights. The vessels is God's concealed hand, God's disguise, and that's the vessel, it's Elohim. The verse in the Torah tells us that Havaya and Elohim is the same exact thing. And if nothing else, this is what you should internalize. And when you leave this world, if nothing else that you've learned, but you say these words, Shema Yisrael, Havaya Elokeinu, Havaya Echad, you've done well. If you can leave this world with this affirmation, you've done well. But what on earth is the affirmation, says the Rebbe Rashab? How is Havaya and Elohim the same thing? The lights and the vessels are opposites. The light reveals, the vessel conceals. We tried to answer that the vessel actually does reveal. Because I'd have no relationship with the light if not that I had the vessel. Just like, let's use the analogy of an electricity current going through a refrigerator. The electric current is fire. It's live. The refrigerator is dead. It's just a clunk of metal. It's the recipient. When the electricity runs in the refrigerator, I now have a relationship with the electricity. Before, there's no way that I had a relationship with electricity. I couldn't relate. I could talk about it, think about it, describe it academically. But I had no relationship with the electricity, with the energy. But now that I have a refrigerator and they function together as one, when the electrical current runs through the refrigerator, I have a relationship with the electrical current in the form of frozen food or cold beers. Right? I have a relationship with electricity. So seemingly we wanted to answer that Havaya and Elohim is the same thing. The lights and the vessels are the same because not only does the light reveal, but the vessel also makes it relatable, palatable to us. But then the Rebbe Rashab says no, you can't say that. Because true, the vessel, the fridge, in my analogy, the fridge might be revealing electrical current what we never had a relationship with before. But what are we getting from the electrical current? We're getting like 1% of the energy. Electricity is so much more than just the ability to cool down the food. right? Yes, you're getting one manifestation of the light in the form of your cold beer, but electrolyte, you can't possibly say that I now have the energy revealed to me. There's 99% of the light being concealed, and only 1% of it is being revealed. This makes sense to you, right? And the analogy that we brought in the previous classes was of the Sanhedrin, of the court, the high court in Jerusalem. When they ruled a case of capital punishment, they needed to rule the verdict on a daytime. Oh, they had to stay up all night. They couldn't sleep on it. Why could they not sleep on it? Call it a night, call it a day, right? 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, call it a day, go to bed, we'll wake up fresh from tomorrow morning, we'll resume the conversation and finish up the deal. They couldn't do that. Why? Because when you write down your latest, there were scribes for the prosecution and a scribe for the defense, right? When you write down the latest developments, and tomorrow morning you open up the book and you're like, okay, where we're holding again, remind me, right? When you look in the book, the written word retains within it only a fraction of the wisdom and the emotion, well, primarily the wisdom when it comes to judgment. The Elohim conceals the vast majority of the Havaya. It only reveals, yes, of course, there's wisdom in the written words. Of course, there's written, it's not gibberish. There's wisdom in the written words. But the vast majority, the lion's share of the light is concealed when there's a written word, when there's only Elohim and there's only a vessel. On the flip side, when they were forced to keep talking all night long, to keep the conversation going, until daybreak when they were able to rule the verdict. Now what happened was that they were not diluting the light in the written word alone. They were keeping the light fresh all along. The wisdom, the intellect was kept fresh all along until such time as they needed to rule the verdict. What does this show us? That in this case, in this metaphor, the written word is the vessel. The light is the wisdom inside of the written word. There's wisdom, which is the light. It's inside of the written word. Can I truly say that I got to know J.K. Rowling when I read Harry Potter? Do I really get to know the soul of William Shakespeare because I read Twelfth Night? No, you can't. You got a little bit of a fraction of William Shakespeare's wisdom or a little bit of the fraction of J.K. Rowling's emotion, but you cannot possibly say that you know her nefesh, her soul. You couldn't possibly say that because that's the light is so deeply contracted and diluted that you're hiding much more than you're revealing. So that was our first analogy. And today we're going to do a second analogy. So far, so good. We're good with this. The second analogy, which we're going to do inside in a few moments, is the analogy from the limbs of the human body. In the human body, you've got limbs, the body. And then you've got the soul, which is illuminating the limbs. Or animating, to be more correct. Animating, the Latin root of animating is anima, which means life. Right? It gives life to the limbs. Without a soul, the body is a corpse. With the soul, the eye can see. The heart can feel. The brain can calculate. The nose can smell. The tongue can taste, and so on, right? The animating soul does all of that, exactly. You don't even need to talk about the godly soul, right? Just we're talking about the animal, the natural soul right now, right? Klippa soul. Now, one might have thought, this is in Talmudic language, the Havamina, I would have thought that when I look at a human body, I say, not only is the light of the neshama revealing in the mode of revelation, the light of the neshama shines, the light of the soul shines, but even the body, even the packaging, even the Elohim also reveals. Why? Because I would normally have no relationship with the light of anybody's soul, right? If I'm going to talk to my unborn child, there's no way I can talk to my unborn child. Like, how am I going to talk to my unborn child? But when there's a body, Atazo, you were born. Now we can engage. I see you smile. I see you giggle. I see you laugh. I see you crawl. I see you this. I see you patch. I see you pull my beard. All right, we have a relationship, right? So the body is actually revealing the light within it, the soul within it. I would have thought. That's the Havamina. It's the forethought. Comes to Rabbi Rashab, and then that's why I would have thought that in the analogy of the body and the soul, where the light is the soul and the vessel is the body, I would have thought that the body does indeed reveal, is in a mode of revelation, just like the soul, the light is also in a mode of revelation, and therefore Havaya and Elohim is the same thing. Comes to Rabbi Rashab and he says, not good enough, because when you look at the soul of your unborn child, before it enters into the body, it is infinite, almost infinite. But when it comes into the body, the soul is extremely diluted and constrained. An example, vision. Let's talk about the vision of the eye. When the soul is inside of the eye, of the eyeball, what can it see? A very, very, very limited segment of that which is seeable.
From here, from this perspective.
Well,
You can see it from up there.
Yeah, you can only see from one angle. It's got to be through the eyeball. Where you are is where you see, right? So right there, you're limited to one place, right? And even then, when you see maybe 1% of that which is seeable, right? Let's compare that to other living beings that can see more. Let's compare that, let's say, to other animals that can see in the dark, right? Let's say like hunters, predators. Cheetahs and leopards, they can see in the dark, right? They're nocturnal hunters. So right there, they can see more than we can see, right? So from there, you can already see there's a limitation on the visual of the human soul, right, in the eye. Then there's I forget what they're called. When you look at the panorama of vision, we only see certain waves. Wavelengths, it's called. In the spectrum, that's what it is. It's called the spectrum. There's gamma rays we don't see. There's microwaves. There's satellite waves. There's all sorts of waves. But if you had certain kind of glasses, right, you might be able to see them. You with me, right? So the human eye is only able to see, let's say,
the unaided human eye.
The unaided human eye can only see a certain fraction of the spectrum, which means that the natural soul is only very limited in its vision. What about before it had a body? Then it was able to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. And that's one of the reasons it says in the Talmud, when a pregnant woman walks into a room, you're supposed to rise up. Because before the soul has entered the body, when it's just a soul, the soul is studying Torah. It's got access to the angels. It's able to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world. It's not limited. I mean, it is limited, but much, much, much more powerful.
Less limited than he'll be after.
Exactly. And therefore, with this one example of the visual power of the soul, we see that the descent into the body is far more stifling than it is revealing.
Something as basic as, I want to get the whole sense of your soul, but I can't. I can only get what you speak to us in this
Which
way.
is extremely filtered.
Which is extremely filtered and extremely limited. There's so much more. But that's
Right.
all we get.
So that's a very good example. You're trying to capture my soul. You can't. Because I don't even know how to give it to you. Like, how would I give you my soul? I mean, you're a human being physical. I'm a human being physical, right? So my godly soul is to translate to physical. My soul is to translate to physical. Then deliver to you physical, and then translate to your spiritual soul.
Think, speak, and act. All we get is what you speak at this moment, not everything else, not what you think, not what
And that's the
act.
process of evolution, right?
But that also gets me to a problem with what you said in the first place. When
Okay.
if you say the Shema just before you die, it's all good. But the thought is that you are given the bodies in order to act, in order to fulfill your destiny. So you have not fulfilled your destiny if all you've done is recognize God's greatness with the Shema, that Havaya and Elohim is one just before you died. You haven't met your objectives. You haven't done.
That's a big part of it.
What's that? If all that you did is said the Shema, right?
Yeah.
And what didn't you do?
Then you haven't done your whole life. Your soul was put in this body to achieve a destiny, to speak.
Yeah, but if you've managed to reach the clarity of consciousness,
But you haven't done anything your whole life.
but if at that moment, hang on, Tanya chapter 33 tells us. Tanya 33 tells us that what does it mean, done anything? What does it mean to make a difference in this world? You know what the most precious piece of real estate on this earth is? Right there, right here. If you are able to come to clarity of consciousness with this Maamar, where Havaya and Elohim is one, then you have made the most profound difference possible to humanity. Okay, got that?
Even though you're done.
That's it. What do you mean you're done? You're done on this earth. You're done on the stage. You're going backstage now.
Right.
But you're done on the stage. You've done your part.
You enhanced God's presence in this world.
100%.
I mean, that's
100%. How are you going to do that? By opening a theater in Moscow? What are you going to do? Of course. The way you change the world is here. Here, exactly. Now, Elaine is asking a beautiful question. First of all, welcome to our truck driver. Have to stay strong. I think his name was Trevor. I can't remember. Winston from Jakarta. Good morning, Winston. If you could please post to Facebook. Tell them we're only on YouTube. Elaine is asking a beautiful question. How does this apply to the written Torah as opposed to the oral Torah? Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant question, right? Elaine, I love that. Why? Because people tell us, you don't need the oral Torah. The oral Torah is an invention of the rabbis. What we just learned is that if you only had the written Torah and you had no oral Torah, you would have lost the soul of Yiddishkeit. Just like the judges of the Supreme Court, right? Needed to keep on verbalizing, keeping the wisdom fresh in order to keep the light invested in the vessel without leaving just the vessel and no light or a fraction of the light. So too with the oral Torah accompanying the written Torah in every single instant of the past 3,331 years since we received it on Mount Sinai. What has happened, therefore, is that we've been talking about it nonstop around the clock, all around the world. We've never fallen asleep at the wheel, right? That's exactly what the point is here. The fact that we have an oral Torah together with the written Torah means that we've never lost the soul of Yiddishkeit. The light has always remained fresh through verbal speaking about it in an unbroken chain since Moses received it from God. Does that make sense to you?
And the written Torah is just like a shorthand. There's so much in it that you could not possibly understand unless you have the oral.
That's exactly right. The written Torah is shorthand. You couldn't possibly write all the wisdom in writing. That's why there's got to be the oral conversation, exactly like the first analogy, right? So, in other words, the power of thought is far more abstract and powerful. I'm talking now, we're moving from a visual, from the analogy of the eye to the analogy of wisdom, right? The power of thought is far more abstract and powerful before it descends into the body, before enclothing in the brain, than after. Before it encloses into the physical brain. The soul's power of thought has the ability to comprehend and grasp godliness. But after it descends into the body, it doesn't even know where to begin. It doesn't even know what that is. Same thing with the power of sight. It's far more abstract and powerful. With the ability to see spirituality before enclothing in the eye. Right? An example of this would be like animals that can see spirits, but not humans. Humans can't see spirits. So we say dogs will bark randomly at strangers or at nothing, or at a cemetery. What seems like nothing. We don't see anything, but the dog, so you could tell something's bothering him, right? He sees something. The point is that the concealment of the point that we're leading to in this is as follows: is that by concealing the lion's share of the light, you're left with a remnant of the light that is relatable. When you have the light which is relatable, it's proof that you've lost the essence of the light. Where the essence of the light is shining, it's not relatable. It's inversely proportionate. When you have the essence of the light shining, it's not relatable to you. But when the essence of the light is concealed, then what's left? The light is relatable. Like the electricity. If you had electric current in its raw form in the refrigerator, it would be completely unrelatable. It would blow the whole place around, right? But when it's contracted, limited, processed, modulated, whatever you want to call it, then I'm only getting a very small current of electricity. Relatable, cold beers, it's great. But I cannot possibly say that I've got the essence of the energy, right? Let's see this idea. In other words, this is why the vessels actually hide the essence of the light. The function of the vessels is to hide the essence of the light in order to reveal the externality of the light. Which means, therefore, back to square one, vessels Elohim hides, light Havaya reveals. How are they the same? And that's really concluding this first section, first of 5 sections of the discourse, right? All right, let's see this idea in the words of the Rebbe Rashab. Okay, so I'm going to read inside. If anybody has the book, I'm on page 7. I actually have another copy if anybody wants to follow along. You want interested? Here's a copy of the book. Page 7 at the bottom of the page. The paragraph begins similarly to refer. This is the second analogy after the Sanhedrin, after the written word. In the first analogy, the light was the wisdom and the vessel was the written word. In the second analogy, the light is going to be the soul and the vessel will be the body. Similarly, to refer to the analog in the spiritual realms, the vessels reveal only the external dimensions of the light, while the inner essential light is concealed within them. To further illustrate this concept, it is possible to employ the analogy of the powers of the soul as they are enclosed within the limbs of body. For example, the power of intellect, which encloses itself in the physical brain to conceive ideas, or the power of sight, which encloses itself in the eye to see. So the power of sight is spiritual. The power of thought is spiritual. It's soul powers. They express themselves through the filter of the physical brain and the physical eye, by analogy. In truth, the power of intellect exists within the soul before it encloses itself in the brain, and the power of sight exists before it encloses itself in the eye. Indeed, these powers exist within the soul on a much higher plane than they exist after they are enclosed within the limbs. One more time. Indeed, these powers exist within the soul on a much higher plane than they exist after they are enclosed within the limbs. Nevertheless, at that level, before it's enclosed in the body, the power of sight does not cause any other entity to be seen, i.e., it doesn't function as a way as we know it functions. Similarly, the power of intellect does not function as it does after it becomes enclosed within the brain, but rather functions on a higher plane. What does that mean? What does this mean that the intellect understands things that we don't understand when it's in a body? What does it mean the eye sees things that we don't see? Well, he's going to go into more detail here where he says that it's actually not just intuition, it's actually godliness and understanding godliness and visualizing spirituality. Look here. These concepts are interrelated. The power of intellect as it exists within the soul before it is enclosed within the body is an essential light, which is far above the level on which it can conceive of concepts that are at all physical in nature or involve material things. Instead, the soul, before enclosing in the body, perceives spiritual matters, e.g., the concepts revealed in Gan Eden and the like. That is what the soul deals with, and it deals with godly realities. Similarly, at that incorporate level, the power of sight sees spiritual matters. For example, it sees angels. Like angels, is totally normal for the soul to see before it's born. When it gets into a body, it becomes blind to 98% of what's out there. It is only as these powers enclose themselves in the limbs of the body that this essence light becomes hidden. The essence light of the soul becomes hidden. And only its external dimensions become revealed, causing these powers to function in relation to other entities. So yes, it becomes relatable. The light becomes relatable when it's enclosed in the vessel. The soul becomes functional when it's enclosed in a body. But that's at a very high price. It's only because the essence of the light is being revealed that the light becomes functionally usable. And now we're going to wrap this all up in the next 3 or 4 paragraphs. This leads to a general principle of greater scope. A revelation of the essence brings about concealment for others. When the essence of the light is shining, you can't relate. When there's raw electricity there, you can't use it for anything. For they are not on the same level as the essence, and hence they cannot perceive it. The recipients aren't on the same level as the essence, they can't relate to it. Conversely, a concealment of the essence brings about revelation for others. For when the essential light is hidden, the aspects which the others can perceive are revealed. From this we can understand in the spiritual realms. Now we're going to go back to the analog, to godliness, raw godliness, Havaya. The way it's enclosed in the vessels of the spiritual world of Atzilus, which is the energy of Elohim. So the light of Havaya is enclosed in the vessels of Atzilus. In other words, raw godliness is now getting personality. Kindness, strictness, compassion, wisdom, emotions, right? God is becoming, what's the word? God is becoming...
The different wavelengths on the spectrum of light,
through the prism. There's the light before the prism,
right,
and the light through the prism, right?
If you separate them, it's the godliness measures like
it's limited.
red and green.
It's limited colored godliness is after the vessels, after Elohim, relatable. But before that, it's just pure, raw, unfiltered godliness. So Havaya is enclosed in the vessels, right? Now, from this, we can understand how in the spiritual realms, the vessels of Atzilus, so Atzilus is the first of the four worlds, conceal the essence of the light. The vessels conceal the essence of the light, and through that, they reveal only its external dimensions. And indeed, it's only because they conceal the inner essential light that they're able to reveal the external dimensions of the light, and thus perform various functions as explained within the context of the analogy of the soul. So we just took it home. We took this whole thing home. We went back to the raw analog, where pure godliness is being filtered through the personality of the sphirot. There's 10 sphirot, 10 attributes in the highest world of Atzilus: kindness, strictness, severity, emotions, intellect, right? And now when you can say, oh, this is God the way he's angry. This is God the way he's compassionate. This is God the way he's wise. You know what I mean? When you look at that, which becomes relatable, the only reason it's relatable is because the essence of the light is being hidden, is being hidden from us, right? Therefore, the vessels are identified with the name Elohim, which relates to the attribute of judgment and the power of contraction, for it limits and veils the light. Similarly, all the veiling and concealing processes in the world stem from the name Elohim. This is going to be a little Kabbalistic, so don't worry about this. These refer to the parses, the curtains, which separate each and every world. Similarly, within the worlds themselves, there may be parses. There's these curtains. Basically, they're filters. In the world of Atzilus, there's a parsa between the intellect and the emotions. There's a parsa between Atzilus and Bria, between the two worlds. Within the world of Bria, there's also curtains. Similarly, there are curtains, parsas between the world of Bria and Yetzirah and Asiya. And within each world, there's always filters. Whenever there's a filter, you're talking about concealment, you're talking about Elohim. This entire process of limitation stems from the name Elohim, while all the potential for revelation within the world stems from the name Havaya. Thus, the two names Havaya and Elohim are opposite in nature. One is the source for revelation. The other is the source for concealment. And so we return to the original question. How can it be said that these two are all one and the same? We've basically spent 11 lessons to begin to understand the problem. When we started off, we said, Veyodayta, and you shall know today that Havaya is Elohim, that the Lord is God. Very nice. The Lord is God. Have a nice day. Where's the Kiddush? Right? That's what we thought. We came in, we were like, okay, the Lord is God. Got it. Yes, sir. But we had no clue what we were even talking about. The Lord is God. God is the Lord. Why would I have thought otherwise? Did we think that the Lord is Charlie Brown? What were we thinking? Like, what was the problem? Now we understand the problem. Exactly. The Lord is not one of the house of the Lord.
English is terrible, terrible.
What a horrible translation. So imagine, let's redefine the verse. Okay, it says, Veyodayta, and you shall know today that when God reveals himself, he's also concealing himself. Huh?
Even when he's telling us his name. Like when Moshe
Even when he's hiding himself, he's revealing himself. What? Like what? What? That's where we're holding right now. We're saying now that I understand what Havaya and Elohim is, I now understand that Havaya is when God reveals. And when God conceals, and it's almost like saying, that I'm just thinking of like, the boxes, when you, it's almost like saying that whether I give my son for his 5th birthday present, whether I give him the remote control car, or I give him the box, it's the same thing. That's what we're saying. We're saying whether what you're giving him, the inside or the outside, it's the same thing anyways. What's the difference? Right? That's effectively what we're saying. You see, you follow how ridiculous it sounds. A lot of comments coming in here. I see a lot of them were deleted. I don't know what happened over here. But Ira Jacobson is in Chile, New York. Shalom, Ira. Now, what's the truth wants to know? The body seems like a reducing vessel that is opaque, only letting through the smallest part of the soul's light. What's the truth? You're correct. 100%. Observable, that was the word. A lot of the stuff is retracted, hidden over here. But maybe that's the point. Somebody posted a lot of comments and then they hid the comments because they think we can read the comments that are hidden. It's Elohim, right? I'm not God. I can't do that, man. You retracted the comment. I can't see it. But yeah, what's the truth? You're right. That's exact. No, you're only right for now. Because here's where we're going. Let me go back in the helicopter with you for a moment. I'm going to take you guys back in the helicopter and tell you where we're going with this in terms of the forest. We don't lose the forest because of the trees. What we're going to explain right now in the next section 2 of 5 parts, is that we're going to explain that when it comes to wisdom, for example, our ability to conceive ideas, light, depends on our ability to limit them. If you had no parameters,
so that you can limit them, you describe in words, you don't just
precisely, by me writing a book, I'm forcing myself, I'm like squeezing this lemon here to let out the light. If not that I had a limit, a time limit, a mission statement limit, a purpose limit, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to talk to you today about everything. And everything and anything. I wouldn't know where to start. It's only when I say, okay, today we have from 8:30 to 9 o'clock, and we're talking about this topic. Because I have parameters, that's why I'm able to experience revelation. In other words, both revelation, or not only revelation, but even concealment is a vital ingredient towards revelation. What we're about to do is not just word semantics here. What we're about to do is come across an absolutely magnificent point, which is going to tell us, it's going to redefine the very nature of darkness, of concealment.
Darkness being the absence of light.
Yeah. Let's just think of it this way. Let's call darkness sleeping, unconscious and conscious, right? Day and night.
Darkness is not the absence of light. We know that right from creation.
Now, that's going to be a very interesting discussion. Darkness not being the absence of light. It's going to be very interesting. I'm only giving you the teaser now, Andy. I'm only giving you the teaser right now, right? But the teaser is that we're going to redefine darkness. Remember where we're going with this. Where we're going with this is to understand why we suffer. Why life has to be so difficult. So we're stuck in the academics right now. But it's only when we have clarity in the academic component that we'll be able to properly understand the practical component. So think of it this way. Think of the good times as light, the bad times as darkness. Right? You're making money. You have more money than you know what to deal with. That's light. You have no money. People are sick and dying. Right? That's darkness. Why do we have to deal with darkness? This is where we're going. We're in the helicopter right now. So what we're doing right now is that we're going to so we're not just stuck in writing and wisdom, in body and soul. and vessels and light. All this is going to serve as a very powerful paradigm. That is the metaphor for the analog. The analog is our lives. Our struggles is the analog. That's where we're headed, right? I'm just showing you in the helicopter the landing spot, right? But what we're doing is what we're going to do tomorrow, God willing, is to redefine the darkness as a vital stepping stone towards the light. Just like I would not be able to talk to you right now if not that I slept last night, right? It's only by being unconscious last night that I'm able to be conscious and fresh with you right now. So too, only by limiting the wisdom, the light, am I going to be able to truly express it. That's just the nucleus of where we're going. Let's see if there's other comments coming in. The essence of a gift is that it's a gift, car, or box. Elaine, the essence of a gift is that it's a gift, car. Is that it's a gift, car, or box. Oh, Elaine is saying that the essence of a gift is that it's a gift. Whether it's a car or a box, the essence is very interesting. She's saying the essence is the thought that counts. So whether I gave you a box or whether I gave you a car, it's interesting to talk about that. What's the truth? Separate point. The color of light is revealed. Andy, this is for you from What's the Truth. Separate point. The color of light is revealed after it goes through the prism. Before the color is hidden in the white light. I guess before, the punctuation is the problem. Before the color is hidden in the white light. Right? Because it was infinite. It was unlimited before vis-a-vis after, right? Right. So that's exactly the analogy that we said before. Beautiful. Well, thank you very, very much, everybody. Beautiful comments of the great synthesis between the live and the virtual audience here. Hopefully the people that are with us later will send me an email to rabbigeorgegardens.com. We'll bring together metaphysical study over here, everyone together, rabbigeorgegardens.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts and reflections. And with that, I want to thank you, everybody, for joining me this morning. Shalom. Have a wonderful day. Toda Rabbah.